Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in the heart of Las Cruces. This beautiful Sunday morning. We're going to have a fun day today. Will's going to have help us play. And Dorian's here. So I invite you all to stand if you'd like, and we'll get started with a couple of songs.
Hello, it's great to see you. Hey friend, you're not alone. Come in, our hearts are open. Welcome home. Come on, the Spirit's moving. Our love is here to grow. Wake up, our coffee's brewing. Welcome home. This is my place. This is your place. This is our place. Welcome home. Hello. This is my place. It's great to see you. Hey friend. This is your place. You're not alone. Come in. Our hearts are open. Welcome home. Come on. The Spirit's moving. Our love is here to grow. Wake up. Our coffee's brewing. Welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. Grateful for the morning, grateful for the sunlight on my face, grateful for the feeling, grateful for the knowing, grateful for the love that's in this place, grateful for believing that God is all there is, that God is all there is. Grateful for the morning, grateful for the sunlight on my face, grateful for the feeling, grateful for the knowing, grateful for the love that's in this place, grateful for believing that God is all there is, that God is all there is, God is all there is.
Good morning. Good. Sound levels going out all the way? Yeah? All right, thank you. Gosh, hello, Zoomers. Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in the heart of Las Cruces. I'm Judy Hunt, your practitioner today. We send our love to Reverend Bonnie and Teresa. They're on their way to represent us at a conference, so we know they're going to come back rich and vital, so we are all blessed by that. Welcome. Oh, our vision is a world in loving partnership for the good of all. That's what we're about. And welcome to anyone visiting for the first time. I don't see you out there, but you might be there. And if so, there are gift bags at each door. So be sure and get one as you go out. And big letters, be sure to read the newsletter. That's how you find out all the things that are going on in this wonderful space. Pick up a flyer about Ed Breeding in the social hall. His next documentary will be Friday, March 8, 6 to 8 p.m., showing Genius Sky, Journey into the Heavens. It's a documentary about local photographer Michael C. Gutierrez as he captures photos of the majestic New Mexico skies. Photos and cinematography are breathtaking, so that sounds pretty cool. Also, there's hanging in the social hall, you'll see the furniture, and there's also artwork for sale, and that's all from the estate from our beloved Reverend Bonnie Allen Rice. Oh, and the silent auction is for the furniture. The art you can buy outright, so check that out. Oh, and her Ford Focus, good-looking car, is also along with the silent auction. So that's for sale, and that's information in the newsletter and in the social hall. Oh, and after the service, so none of you have an excuse to skip out. We're going straight, you're going to step out. Will's going to set up for us. We're going right into play date. And then there's a potluck. Because who wants to bring a full stomach to a play date, right? So we'll play and then eat. So that's our plan. If you've never done it with Will, it's not long. It's accessible to anybody. You can do it from your chair. It's perfect and fun and light, and you will feel better for it. And this isn't in the newsletter, but happy big birthday to Mary Ann McCarthy. Wonderful to see your shining face. And I'm facilitating a book study on Bible mysteries and Bible meanings with a book by Thomas Troward. It probably sounds as grim as possible, and instead it's deep. It's really deep and really fun. So you can still jump in. We're doing that Wednesdays from 11 to 12:30. So consider that as a possibility in your week. And we are, of course, looking at it metaphysically, which makes it a lot more fun. Because I'm sure most of us have struggled with what it says on the page. And that's why I'm doing it, because that stuff did not make sense. It did not land. And yet I knew it was for me. So here I am old. I want to get what it is. So that's why I'm there. And for those of you who knew Reverend Patrick Pollard from the Albuquerque Center for Spiritual Living, his memorial will be held in person and virtually. That's nice for us. Tuesday, September. I created a new month. February 27th at 6 p.m. And there's more information and his obituary in our newsletter. And our next class will be starting the first Thursday in March for 8 weeks. It is the Mystical Path. It's a very cool class, so really recommend it. I'll be there. And Reverend Bonnie Allen Rice's Celebration of Life will be May 11, Saturday at 3 p.m. here. So you could put that on your calendar for the long away. And check the table of all the flyers. There's a lot of stuff going on. I may not have touched on it. Our focus here at the Center for Spiritual Living is prayer. We really believe in the power of prayer. And every week we get together and we pray together, practitioners and ministers of the 4 New Thought Centers here in Las Cruces. And you'll find in the seat back in front of you prayer requests, and we keep them all confidential. And it's for you to share so that we can pray with you on the things that are on your heart. There are also gratitude statements. So if your prayer's been answered, let us know. That's always a celebration. And also it helps you notice that, hey, I asked for that and I got it. This stuff's working. So, and today, if there's anything you'd like help with, a quick prayer treatment, Bob and I are available after service, and I'll still be there for play, so it won't interrupt anything. Feel free to join, to come to us. So now, it is time for song, silence, and prayer.
I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. I am opening. 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 I am opening.
As we feel that opening, we breathe into that center where Spirit is, where Spirit always is, with its peace and its grace and its ease and its joy. And with every breath, we sink deeper into that beautiful place of Spirit. We're here for that today. We're here for that every morning, every afternoon, and every night. And we relax into the peace that is our God-given right. And we surrender to that peace and that ease. And we know that there is where all the guidance comes from. All is well, unfolding divinely. And so it is. Our reading today is from an article from Ernest Holmes in our Science of Maine magazine. The name of the article, it's on page 77 if you have the magazine, is Divine Discontent. What is God but the intelligent life principle running through everything and animating everything? The very imagination through which people seek their flight of fantasy, fleeing from reality, could just as easily have been directed into constructive channels for self-expression. Where love is, fear cannot linger, for love dissipates the anguish of fear as light neutralizes the darkness. The human sense of aloneness becomes submerged in the larger vision of an overshadowing presence. Who could think that Jesus was laboring under a delusion when he stated that the kingdom of heaven is within. Why not link this spiritual realization with the most trivial everyday occurrences? For the eternal day in which we are to live begins right here and now. Knowing the immediate nowness of the kingdom will produce not a flight of fancy away from reality, but will have the reverse effect of causing the mind to enter into its inheritance in the here and now. And so it is.
This song is called Joy in My Day, and it's by Denise Rosier. Yeah. You're always welcome to sing along. It's more fun when you do. Oh, hang on a second. I don't like that one. I don't like that song.
Love in the words I say, peace in the world I make, God in every breath I take, joy in my day, joy in my day.
Love in the words I say, peace in the world I make, God in every breath I take, joy in my day, joy in
My day.
We are lifted up, we are lifted up, we are lifted up higher. We are lifted up, we are lifted up, we are lifted up higher. Love in the words we say, peace in the world we make, God in every breath we take, joy in our day, joy in our day. Love in the words we say, peace in the world we make, God in every breath we take, joy in our day, joy in our day. God in every breath we take, joy in our day, joy in our day. We are lifted up, we are lifted up, we are lifted up higher. We are lifted up, we are lifted up, we are lifted up higher. We are lifted up, we are lifted up, we are lifted up higher.
We are so blessed by our musical team. Yes. And here comes another blessing. We have Dorian Mason speaking to us today. Yes. And Dorian was introduced to Ernest Holmes in his teachings right here at the Center for Spiritual Living over 12 years ago. Dorian attended New Vision Center for Spiritual Living in Phoenix for 4 years, where he took a lot of classes. He has been speaking professionally for about 10 years. One of his projects includes Change Your Life Friday always a good day to change your life, which is a motivational and inspirational website. Prior to the COVID-19 lockdown, Dorian spent time visiting and helping men from Africa that are here seeking asylum. He is currently working on a podcast called Desert Rain Community Radio. That is an ongoing conversation about community and spiritual principles with David Morrison. So welcome, Dorian Mason.
Got to make sure y'all can hear me. Don't want to miss anything. We good? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Judy. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Awesome. So the topic for the month is divine discomfort. And I'm not going to necessarily be speaking on that specifically, but I am going to in a broader sense. And today, the title of my talk was Connecting the Dots, but during the meditation this morning, Judy gave us this: my life is unfolding in divine order. And that's probably a more accurate description of my talk this morning. So I was listening to Reverend Bonnie's talks from the past 2 weeks. Just sit with it, and I choose to learn. When I was listening, two things happened this week that informed this conversation or this talk this morning. One was I received an email, which doesn't sound profound. Everybody receives emails constantly, except I didn't receive Judy's, unfortunately. And I received a phone call, and we're going to put a pin in both of those. But as I was listening to Reverend Bonnie's talk, that's when the phone call came through, and it was during the first talk, and she was talking about sitting with someone after a tragedy in her life, and she said the words, "More will be revealed." And as soon as she said the words, "More will be revealed," this phone call came through. And little did I know more would be revealed and will be revealed today. So the premise of my talk this morning came from a Steve Jobs commencement speech given at Stanford. It's very famous. I'm sure some people here have heard it. It's not new or profound that I'm bringing it to the table, but there was a quote in there. He talks about going to university, not really being able to afford, his family not really being able to afford it, so he dropped out. He officially dropped out, but he continued going to classes. But because he dropped out, he could go to whichever classes he wanted to. He wasn't stuck to this curriculum, right? And so he went to a calligraphy class. Eventually, that calligraphy class inspired him to put different fonts on the personal computer, and the rest is history, right? And at the end of that story, he talks, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college. But it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And I know that's what this entire talk is going to be about today. But for me, the more profound thing is when I remember that line that I started with, my life is unfolding in divine order. It's easier to know that whatever's happening today, I might not be able to connect the dots looking forward, but I can trust that those dots are going to be connected as my life unfolds, right? And so, like it was said in my introduction, I was introduced to this center. It was actually Mother's Day of 2008. My mother asked me and my sister, she said, all I want for Mother's Day is to have breakfast, and then you go to this new church that I've been going to. And so we all agreed and came, and we too received the welcome bags. The thing that was profound about that was I don't know if it still is, but the monthly Science of Mind magazine was included in that thing. And I can remember looking through the different stuff and that magazine specifically. And at the time, I was living in Phoenix, Arizona. I was going to university there. And in fact, that was the funny thing about the email that I mentioned earlier. It was from the UC Berkeley. And I said, oh, they must have heard that I went to the Harvard of the Southwest, Arizona State University, and they need to pick my brain about some knowledge. That's not what it was. It was a survey, but. So went back to Phoenix, and someone that I had started to befriend, they were sort of acquaintances. A few days after I'd gotten back from visiting Las Cruces, they were wearing a pair of shorts, and I saw a magazine sticking out the side of their pocket. And I said, hey, I know that magazine. I was like, do you go, is there a church here in Phoenix that you go to? He's like, yeah, it's up in Scottsdale. I sometimes go to it, but I read this magazine very regularly. And so we started talking about it. And the conversation, wasn't more than maybe 2 or 3 minutes, but for the rest of that week, that conversation stuck with me. And it's like, it's a little bit more than just a coincidence that I go to this place, see a magazine, and then someone I've have a new friendship growing has that magazine literally in their pocket, and not hidden in their pocket, right? Like just enough so I could recognize it and be like, hey, I know what that is. So later that week, I asked that gentleman if I could go with him to the center there in Scottsdale, and we started calling it Sunday Tradition. We would go every Sunday, and eventually it expanded to breakfast and another fellowship we were part of. We would go to that, and then go to New Vision Center there. And then in the fall and the winter, it expanded. We would go and watch football afterwards. And we had this whole Sunday tradition built around spirituality and fellowship and prayer and stuff of that nature. And so, and our friendship grew over, not just in that context. We hung out in many other contexts, but, that magazine seems to be the bridge to that early friendship, right? Looking, once again, connecting the dots, looking back. And so, like I mentioned, the reason I was in Phoenix is I was going to university at the time, and was coming to the end, about to graduate, and exploring, what's next, what's going to be my next steps in the world. And at the time, I had a very deep calling to find a way to be of service, and in my grandiose mind to a larger community. And so I started applying for Teach for America. I applied for the Peace Corps. Those were sort of my top 2 options. And then I had also interned with the NFL, and I had applied a job with them as well. And what reminded me of this part right here is actually that email that I had received. The survey was for people that applied for Teach for America over the last 20-25 years. And, I'd gone through that process about 12 years ago now. And got through the first stage of the application process, like a phone interview, and then got an in-person interview, and was not accepted to the program. Similar thing I thought happened with the Peace Corps. Went through the application process, and actually might have gone into a couple of in-face interviews on the Peace Corps side of it. And I never received a thing that I wasn't accepted. It just kind of went away. It just fizzled out. And the job for the NFL, I never heard anything about that. It's sitting in someone's computer somewhere, I'm sure. So as I'm coming to the end of college, I'm getting these rejections, or what feels like rejections, one after the other. And as you get closer to that date, anyone that's graduated from university, the common question is like, oh, what's next? What are you going to do next? And as the date got closer and closer, I still did not know. And one of the Reverend Bonnie's second talk, I choose to learn. In that moment, there was fear. Obviously, there was some shame around the rejection that I felt like I was experiencing. But in that moment, I chose to just trust the process, that something would present itself. And one of the things that had happened, if anyone was here last time I spoke, I told a story about my grandfather who had Alzheimer's, and the last time I spent time with him and got to see him in person. well, this was several years before that, maybe 4 or 5 years prior to that. But he was already in pretty deep stages of Alzheimer's, and that winter I'd come home for Christmas and had spent some time with him and my grandmother, and they were still living in their house. But I was realizing, just as an observer, it seemed like a lot for my grandma. You know, they were. My grandma would have been in her mid to late 80s, I guess, at that point. And seeing the idea of like, maybe you can be of service in this way. But it was a fleeting thought, because I already had these ideas for Teach for America and the Peace Corps and everything else. And so as I got closer to graduation, I started running some of these ideas by friends, by family, spiritual advisors and stuff. And they were all supportive, but there was also that, like, you could pick up on that. Are you sure that's what you want to do? Like, you're graduating college, you know what I mean? And the closer it got, the more sure I became of it. And there was I can't point to any logical reason why that was. But it just felt like the right move at that time. And so after graduation, I ended up moving back to Las Cruces and moving in with my grandparents. I had a part-time job, where I'd go throughout the day, but I was still there for the morning and the evening, and was able, my schedule was flexible, so I could help with doctor's appointments and things of that nature. And during this whole process, so the time frame was 2012. I graduated in 2012, so this time frame was 2012, 2013, and the Peace Corps thing jumped back up. Someone reached out to me and said that they had found a placement, and that particular placement was in West Africa. And so between the time I had stopped talking to the Peace Corps and it popping back up several months later, I had learned that I could receive a medical accommodation for something that I struggle with. And so after they had reached back out, I asked about this, because I'd never asked about it before. And so the recruiter said, okay, let me look into it. And so they were unable to officially give me a medical accommodation, but they said the closest thing would be a placement in the Ukraine. And so I had, they couldn't give me this medical accommodation, but I was still welcome to take either placement. The one in the Ukraine, which they, thought that it could be the closest thing to what I was asking for, or West Africa. And so I didn't know, because this is something that I had wanted to do. I still felt like I wanted to do it on one level, but there was something inside of me that it didn't feel right. Once again, nothing logical about it. There was no reason for me to point out that I shouldn't do it. You know what I mean? Anyone that's been a caregiver knows being a caregiver, especially from family members, is not an easy task, and I was a few months into it. But for whatever reason, I passed on it. And so this would have been sometime, I don't remember the exact dates, and I couldn't find any of the correspondence, but it was sometime in 2013. And that placement would have been a 2-year placement. So it would have ran basically 2013 through 2015. And the reason those dates are important is this is my first example of connecting the dots looking backwards. So right before, I had remembered this, but I wanted to make sure I live by the story, don't let facts get in the way of a good story. But sometimes I like to check the facts, because, and I Googled top stories of 2014. So this would have been the time frame when I would have been at either one of these placements. And NBC News had a year in review for 2014, and the number one thing on that list was Ebola, which took place in West Africa. And I'm not saying I would have gotten Ebola, but my volunteer time would have looked much different than I had envisioned it. And then farther down on the list, number 6, was the Ukraine conflict. Russia had invaded the Ukraine that year to annex Crimea, if I remember correctly. And that would have shaped my volunteer time in a very odd way. Is that why I said no? I don't know. But I listened to that divine intervention, that divine discomfort, when I was making these decisions, right? I was taking it to prayer. I was taking it to meditation. I was talking to people about it. And for whatever reason, logically it made sense. It's like, yeah, this is what you wanted to do. You applied for it. You went through this long, vigorous application process. You had multiple interviews. And for whatever reason in that moment, it was like, no, this isn't the right move. Eventually, my grandfather ended up having blood clots in his legs and having to move to assisted living. And so me living with my grandparents lasted about a year. And I stayed in town for another year afterwards, and would still go check on my grandmother at the house and help her around the house, and go sit with my grandfather in the assisted living situation. And so all of this, to get back to that phone call earlier this week. So the gentleman I talked about, Sunday tradition, he called me this week, and like I said right before his phone call came through, more will be revealed. I also lived with that gentleman the last year I was in university. So he was one of those guys I lived with. There was 4 of us that lived together in a house, and he was one of the guys that was close witnessing this process I was going through of figuring out what my next move was going to be. And so he calls me on Monday, and his father had a stroke. And he currently lives in Hawaii. His parents were on vacation in Florida, so he was able to get out to Florida. And through the first week of being in, his father being in the hospital and him being there for his mom, and them just trying to get their bearings, get as much information from the nurses and the doctors as possible, he decided that he was going to. His parents live in Rhode Island, so he decided he's going to move back and be the caregiver for his father as this unfolds. And he got to call me and share this with me and say, after I made that decision, I remember that there was someone in my life that had made a similar decision that I did not he said, I did not understand why you were doing what you did at the time, but you did it anyways. And now I have someone that I can reach out to and lean on, and learn as this thing unfolds on what it looks like to be a caretaker for someone you love and care for. And I'm not. So last time I spoke, when I was telling the story about my grandfather, I started crying, but it was like sniffle crying. By the end of this phone call, I was all out bawling. You know what I mean? Because it was in that moment that this idea of you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. And realizing that I don't always, sometimes we get in tunnel vision, and I easily forget that my actions, my words will affect those around me, sometimes in positive ways and sometimes in negative ways, right? But just to go back to that moment, and for both of these things, the email and because I even revisited some of the that rejection and stuff that, and being like, thank God that I didn't get accepted by Teach for America. My life has unfolded in such a beautiful way. And even the NFL thing, I ended up working for them a couple of years after all of this unfolded anyways, and got to have that opportunity as well. And so as I sort of come to the end of this, I do ask for prayer for the Loy family as they walk through this new chapter in their life. My friend's dad has since been released from the hospital and is now in rehab and going through that. And also prayer. So the grandmother that I lived with, she's been in the hospital this week. So prayers for her. same situation. We're waiting to get approval to get released to a rehab hospital. So that's going in the right direction. But just was reminded as Judy was doing the introductions, how powerful prayer is, and two, how much prayer has informed this center and how much it has changed people's lives through that action of affirmative prayer. And so to go back to this idea of divine discomfort, as you're going through whatever it is in life, it could be good, bad, indifferent. I also wrote down divine intervention, divine discomfort, or maybe divine mundane. Maybe it's just another Tuesday, right? But to relax and rest in that knowing that my life, your life, our life is unfolding in divine order. And how do I know that today? Once again, going back to that quote, the Steve Jobs quote, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college. But it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And I'm so grateful that this week has unfolded in the way it does, because just like that phone call interrupted, that idea of more will be revealed. I'm part of a fellowship, and one of our readings said, God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. And I know that's true for everyone in this room, everyone tuning in on Zoom, and everyone watching in the aftermath of YouTube. So thank you for your time today.
With all the help. Jeez. Let's pray. Oh, my goodness. My life is unfolding in divine order. I mean, I had that thought this morning in my chair. I used it in meditation. It inspired Dorian. Life is so beautiful, and I'm grateful to Spirit for all of the guidance, all of the love. And we have examples everywhere around us that we just lean into our spirituality, lean into our trust, lean into our knowing, and hear what Spirit is saying inside. And there's a place in us that knows it's right. And so the other stuff falls away, and the right stuff is there. And Dorian's right. We don't know how it's going to look as it unfolds, but we trust, we stay, we relax, we are at ease, knowing that it is all unfolding divinely. We're so blessed by this place, by these messages, by the people around us. And I'm so grateful for all of this peace and joy that reside here, that we can come every Sunday and relax into our true selves. So we now take that forward all week, because nobody wants to know the person you're trying to be. People want to know who you are. So enjoy that, be with that. Spirit is there. So thank you, Spirit. I release this prayer knowing it is done, and it is all good, and so it is. And we get more music. Oh, yeah. Oh, good. The ukulele.
You want to introduce this one, Kay?
Well, Sarah asked me if we could, this is a repeat, you've heard this once before, Sarah asked me if we could do this one today, kind of to warm you up a little bit for Will's playtime. So hopefully it's going to bring a smile to everybody's face, because you're in style when you're wearing a smile. Did you, yes, okay. All the world's in trouble, that is true. It worries you, I'm worried too. But frowns are unbecoming, they won't do. Let's wear a smile and be in style. If you smile in the morning, you'll smile until night. Smile and the world will be smilingly bright. And though the skies that were blue turn to gray, smile and you'll chase Mr. Trouble away. Keep smiling, smiling when it's cloudy, and don't mind the rain. Sunshine must come after a while. Smile if your clothes are of silk and rags. You're in style when you're wearing a smile. Smile if your clothes are of silk or in rags. You're in style when you're wearing a smile. All things are more expensive this while. It costs a lot to be in style. But dear old Mother Eve knew what to do. She wore a smile, and so can you. If you smile in the morning, you'll smile until night. Smile and the world will be smilingly bright. And though the skies that were blue turn to gray, smile and you'll chase Mr. Trouble away. Keep smiling, smile when it's cloudy, and don't mind the rain. Now sunshine must come after a while. Smile if your clothes are of silk or in rags. You're in style when you're wearing a smile.
I mean, who else has a kazoo and a ukulele? Come on.
I know.
We're special.
Too great.
Sheesh. Well, now it's time to consider giving back to the center, this beautiful place that gives us all of these wonderful benefits. Our tithe recipient this month is the Jardín de los Niños, a wonderful program providing the best possible childcare and educational services to our children aged 6 weeks to 10 years of age. Comprehensive and holistic family services which give our parents the tools they need to flourish, to expand our presence in the community and continue to create awareness about the needs of our children and families, continue to grow the resources that support our children and families through collaborations, partnerships, and community relationships. So everything you give this month, 10%, goes to this wonderful organization. So, we're not just a blessing to each other, we're a blessing to the community. So let's sing our song about how blessed we are.
Oh, okay.
I think we have a little phrase to say first.
Oh, okay.
That's right, here it comes. There it is. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God and me.
I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed.
Well, we will take all these blessings and just share them all around us. First, we'll play, and then we'll share. So, what's we going to do? Here's our closing song, whatever it might be.
We're going to do this little light of mine.
Oh.
Just for some different. If you'd like to stand, that'd be great.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hide it under a bush, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bush, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hide it under a bush, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Well, God gives me the gift of love, I'm gonna let it shine. God gives me the gift of love, I'm gonna let it shine. God gives me the gift of love, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. My gratitude for this day, I'm gonna let it shine. My gratitude for this new day, I'm gonna let it shine. My gratitude for this new day, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Have a wonderful week.
Yes.